The makeup supply chain is global and complex. Many products are manufactured overseas before being imported and distributed across the United States, which introduces challenges around quality assurance, customs clearance, and lead times. Inventory management is also a challenge as cosmetics have an expiration date and can degrade in quality over time. Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. We are proudly presented by SPI Logistics, and I am your host, Blythe Brumleve. And in this mashup episode, Grace Sharkey is back to chat with me about what we found out while researching the logistics of makeup. Now, in the first segment, we're going to cover the supply chain of makeup. And then in the second segment, we're going to get into the problem with returns, how retailers are managing these makeup returns, or how they don't really manage them at all. Either way, we want you to be informed on where your makeup is coming from. So I hope you enjoy this source to porch story on the logistics of makeup. Okay, moving into our final topic. That's the makeup supply chain. So very similar to like source to porch, which we pick out a favorite like logistics of story, and we sort of track the entire supply chain. So moving into this is something that we talked about I think back in December about just having an entire show featured around just like the makeup supply chain. But we could probably knock this out in 15-20 minutes. So that's it'll be a good part of the
15
show.
would be
And
good. Yeah.
so I haven't really dived. I know you do, so I'm going to go to you in just a second to break this down for us. But my lack of knowledge around makeup, just in general, and the overall supply chain is very lacking. I have covered in the past the logistics of lipstick and sort of the lipstick index around that. And for folks who may not know,
Yeah.
lipstick is a good economic indicator of where we are at in our sort of performance wise of people, how they want to spend money. Studies have shown that if we are headed towards a recession, or if we are in a recession, then lipstick sales dramatically increase. And that's because people start cutting out different luxury items, but they won't cut out a luxury lipstick. It's sort of think of like a woman coming out of a bathroom and putting on lipstick. It's a sign of wealth. It's a sign of just a perception. You're communicating that wealth. And so lipstick sales tend to increase whenever there's economic downturn, because if you're going to spend money on something, especially from a female perspective, you're going to spend money on a really good lipstick. And so that's where the sort of the lipstick index comes from. And then it sort of evolves into how do we even get like red lipstick. It comes from the carmine beetle, which these beetles are, red in nature. And that's where a lot of
Yeah.
red food dye comes from too, is from the carmine beetle. Yes, an insect that they crush up and use it to make the red pigment that you have in food dyes and also red lipstick. So there's a really that's the extent of a lot of my knowledge when it comes to makeup supply chain. But since you obviously with hosting the stock out, you've been covering this for a while. There was one account that you sent over called the Lipstick Lesbians account. And do you want me to
Yes.
play the clip first, or do you want to kind of set it up for us?
Oh, well, let me set it up really quick. So what we're kind of going to go over today is like more so like the sourcing of your makeup products. And hold on a second. I just opened up something that's playing in my ear. Sorry. And actually I got into this like a while ago when I was in college because I have a girlfriend who is well, she's pretty big on YouTube. Her name is Faye. She's a little bit more known in Korea as well, and she has actually a makeup line that comes out of Korea. So there's a lot of really great Korean makeups in skincare that I've
Yes.
used in the past that she's put me on. And so I've always found it interesting to like where all of our makeup comes from, where some of the products come from. Uh, I think in the past episode we talked about like one of Jeffree Star's lines. There was a couple of years ago he put out a really cool palette that I had pre-ordered, and it ended up changing at some point because there was a specific green color in the palette that had a specific ingredient that was like just like really hard to find at the time. So in order to like fulfill all of the palettes and everything and get it to people like in less than a year, he ended up like removing that color and it ended up coming out later and everything like that. So I always found it interesting, like, it's powders and all these like different chemicals. Like, how do they come up with these formulas, and how do these things actually, play when it comes to pricing and
Mhm.
quality and things of that nature? Is the US even one of the top places? And so, to kind of give you, before we show the clip, to give you kind of like an outline of different countries and what they're known for, because a lot of this goes into the proprietary technology that a lot of these makeup manufacturers own, right? So some areas and some countries are better at other formulas compared to maybe a different country, just because like the patents are in one country compared to the others. So quickly here to kind of go over it for you guys. So a big one in particular is skincare. A lot of that comes out of Switzerland. That's what they're
Mhm.
most known for. And that's for a couple of brands out there that you might know of. Beauty Pie comes out of Swiss Labs. A lot of really high-end high-end skincare comes out of there. Italy is really known for high-end premium makeups like Dior, some of the more expensive ones, and hair care too. Again, Pat McGrath actually comes from out of Italy. Charlotte Tilbury comes out of Italy as well. Beauty Pie has some of their hair stuff comes out of Italy. Divines, it's the shampoo line
Mm.
out of Italy too. Japan, known for skincare. Tatcha, right, is a Japanese made product. That's probably the biggest one that people really know about. And then Germany, we were talking about Germany earlier, really known for their pencils, eye pencils,
Hmm.
especially the precision ones. They have a special like patent, it sounds like a certain warehouse does in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And
Huh.
so yeah, so like Victoria Beckham's pencils come out of there. A lot of those high-end pencils, Mac pencils, also come out of Germany too.
Hmm.
Korea is really known for just overall innovative formulas. They have a lot of manufacturers out there that are on top of and trying different things.
Oh, the
Dr.
sunscreen is the
Jart
best.
comes out. Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah, right? So a lot of that stuff, Hourglass comes out of Korea. Rare Beauty, a lot of their matte liquid liners come out of Korea too. So a lot of like kind of the new inventive formulas that people are trying will come out of there. France is known a little bit more for the fragrance side of things. Chanel, of course, comes out of France. A few other big ones as well. And New Zealand, known a little bit actually more for the sustainable products, like the organic products that don't have a lot of man-made chemicals or anything like that. And then I think there's one more on my list. Yeah. Oh, Australia, really known for SPF and sun care
Mm.
products too. Clarins, I think, is a big one that you probably heard of. Kate Somerville's another one too. So it kind of showcases. Oh, last one too. Body care UK. That's what they're kind of. Lemur is another one out of there. Aromatherapy products come out of there too. And so yeah, that it kind of showcases to you like, okay, there's different places across the globe that people will to watch. But in this clip here, there's a group, and they're actually like just came out on like a list from last year. It's one of the top like 10 for at least for ads or for like pushing products, one of the most interactive TikToks and Instagram reel accounts out there. But it's because the main girl that you're going to see talking actually spent years in makeup manufacturing. So
Hmm.
a lot of times she'll go through and one of my favorite things she'll do a lot of times is like tell you what companies own certain things. So, like those
Mm.
probably the same formulas. You're just buying more for like Dior when it's actually might be owned by L'Oreal at the end of the
Oh,
day.
great.
Yeah, no, I know.
I have Dior liquid foundation and concealer on as we're talking right now.
Yeah, I think it's like L'Oreal owns what's the we all have it, the like setting spray.
Oh,
Uh
okay. Infallible.
no, 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 the purple one that's like
Oh,
oh
Urban Decay All
yes,
Nighter.
yes. So it's like so you kind of think, okay, well, what am I? when you're thinking about your money, right? What am I putting it towards? And now, even though they're owned, a lot of times it's like one ingredient more that makes it
Huh.
better. But yeah, so they educate you on a lot of this stuff. And in this video, you'll kind of see how you can read labels and how you should interpret them in their supply chains too.
Oh, well, hold on.
In USA assembled Dominican Republic.
I love that we have our creators engaging in the mating content. She's saying two things that I was a little upset with.
Dominican Republic, never heard of shadows coming from that place.
If you are going to engage in it, definitely dig a little deeper. When you see something that says bulk, made in the USA, the batching of the powders, the raw materials, that would happen in the US. It means they mixed up all those powders and they pressed them, in the case of eyeshadows, in the USA, and then they shipped those pans out to the Dominican Republic to glue and assemble in the Dominican Republic.
That's what she read anyway, right?
She read it, but then she said that she's never seen eyeshadows made in the Dominican Republic.
Because
the
they weren't.
eyeshadow is not made in the Dominican Republic.
So that tells you this is not the same formula as pretty much any other shadow palette out there.
There are many, many, many other eyeshadows on the market that do the exact same thing. She also did share some commentary on how eyeshadows are typically made in China and Italy.
Oh, shadows are usually from China or Italy?
Of course, China, Italy do lots of shadows, but let's not forget Canada. They were some of the first to develop certain proprietary technologies as well. I just want to make sure we're all getting all the nuanced information. I've done the full tasting menu in the beauty industry. I've worked on the manufacturing side. I've worked on the brand side. And if we're going to be talking about where things are made and we're not sure, fam, send the videos to us. We'll make sure to do all the research needed to get all the good information to you. One last thing, Makeup by Mario's Ethereal Eyes palette that just launched Christmas, made in the USA, assembled in the Dominican Republic.
Super interesting.
Because a lot of people, so she's talking, the girl that she's talking about is reviewing Kim Kardashian's new makeup line, and a lot of people are saying it's just the Mario palette. And so that's what she's kind of pointing out at the end, is it could just be the Mario palette, because they're likely probably made at the same facilities and shipped together. And then once they get to the Dominican Republic, they just stamp them differently and put them in a different packaging and then send them back to us, right? So yeah, definitely there's another one in here where she gets into, who owns who at Sephora. That one's really cool if you want to click that one. Because it also kind of goes into what I was talking about, like who, if you go up a little bit more, that white one to the left, who owns who at Sephora.
LVMH.
This one's funny for like where you want to kind of save your money as well.
All right, let's play this clip.
On Sephora. Basically, LVMH is going to own 30% probably of the store.
What does LVMH stand for?
Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Did you just have an epiphany?
Yes. All right, let's do it.
Benefit. LVMH. Makeup by Mario. This is privately held. They've actually raised capital, so that means they're backed by venture capital. NARS is still owned by Shiseido. Beauty Blender, to my knowledge, privately held company. Huda Beauty is private equity owned. I'm pretty sure Merit is owned by venture capitalists. Urban Decay, L'Oreal. Say, I want to say, is venture capital. Lancome is L'Oreal. Clinique is Estee Lauder. Too Faced, Estee Lauder. Rose Inc. is owned by I know this. It's a biotech company. Amorous. Tarte is owned by Jose. Luxury Brand Partners is the incubator that does one size. Sephora Collection is, of course, LVMH. Armani is owned by L'Oreal. Hourglass is owned by Unilever. Gucci. This is going to stump me. I think Cody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Valentino shocked me. I remember researching this. It's L'Oreal.
Okay.
Dior, LVMH. They have a really big stake in ownership, 40% of the LVMH stock.
Wow.
Which is really large. Dior be doing something right. I think
Okay.
we forgot this little gondola section, which is like the LVMH island. Fenty is owned by LVMH. Well, technically, Miss Fenty is owned by Kendo.
Which is
Kendo is
owned
owned
by
by LVMH.
Wow.
So is KBD, and so is Makeup Forever. Glossier is venture capital. Rare Beauty, I want to say, is private.
I think we're good. I think we did the walk. Good job.
I think I got like maybe 80%.
That's the mirror.
No idea. Vanessa, how'd you do it?
Are you in freight sales with a book of business looking for a new home? Or perhaps you're a freight agent in need of a better partnership? These are the kinds of conversations we're exploring in our podcast interview series called The Freight Agent Trenches, sponsored by SPI Logistics. Now, I can tell you all day that SPI is one of the most successful logistics firms in North America who helps their agents with back office operations such as admin, finance, IT, and sales, but I would much rather you hear it directly from SPI's freight agents themselves. And what better way to do that than by listening to the experienced freight agents tell their stories behind the how and the why they joined SPI. Hit the freight agent link in our show notes to listen to these conversations, or if you're ready to make the jump, visit spi3pl.com. That
That's
is
cool.
that it's super interesting because you wouldn't think that, I guess, well, it makes a lot of sense of the manufacturing process of where it's being created and then how you can attach that to the label depending on where it's being assembled. I
Yeah.
think I think we need to do a deeper dive on
Yeah.
just
Whoa.
packaging insight and where, because I remember being in Belize, and they have enormous. One of their number one exports is citrus, and for a lot of citrus companies, so like Simply Florida, or Simply orange juice or whatever, like you think that it's coming from Florida, but
Yeah.
it's coming from Belize, and they
Yeah.
can put on the label that it's made in Florida or that it comes from Florida because a certain amount of the manufacturing process is done here.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's crazy that it also applies to makeup as well.
Yeah. Well, that's what's kind of cool about that as well is like for those people trying, hey, Women's History Month, right? Women trying to get into the stock market more. I mean, Cody is a tradable. LVMH that she brought up is tradable too. What's the other one in there? I think L'Oreal actually is too. Elf is one of my favorite stocks of all
Isn't
time.
L'Oreal like the biggest makeup
Yeah.
conglomerate? Like they own almost all makeup
I mean, she
companies.
listed Dior, Armani, like all of the high-end ones you would think are like not owned by L'Oreal, right? Are owned by L'Oreal.
Which is super interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's great insight. And I like that account. It was like an immediate follow for me.
Oh yeah.
There was this other video that I found, and it kind of sucks that all right. Let me back up a minute because I got to set this up properly. So this woman, I was, just doing anytime before a show like this, I always look up on YouTube to see if anybody's done any interviews so I can sort of listen to it while I'm getting ready, while I'm doing my makeup. And one of these ones that I found is from, it's called Green Beauty Conversations. It's a YouTube channel called Formula Botanica. And the episode title, Why Beauty Logistics Are Not Boring. It feels like a weird title. Should be is. So we're
Yeah.
moving on. So
Because
why?
they're pluralizing, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like maybe that was a Grammarly mistake there. Not
It's
exactly.
exactly what that was. Yeah.
So
Grammarly.
this YouTube channel called Green Beauty Conversations, the host is called Gemma Ortega Perez, and she's interviewing a woman by the name of Rachel Whitaker of Indie Beauty Delivers. Now, I tried to look up Rachel on LinkedIn. I found her LinkedIn, but she doesn't post ever. And then I tried to look up her company, Indie Beauty Delivers. What she is she's essentially a logistics consultant to indie beauty brands. And so she helps them think
Wow.
about their logistics processes before they can really start scaling. So she talks them through like the packaging and the things to think about with your packaging, how it's going to sit on a shelf, how you're going to ship it, the ways you can design your packaging and that it's also efficient for shipping. But one
Yes.
thing that a couple of the moments that she brought up is she said the logistics is the only time you physically touch a customer. So if you're an indie beauty maker, like an e-commerce, product maker, manufacturer, then thinking about it from the end consumer angle of that is the only time that your customer or you're going to touch your customer is from your product itself, but when it arrives on their doorstep. And so for a lot of folks or a lot of businesses, and what she was explaining is that you tend to think about the website experience, the marketing experience, all of those different things, but then they don't think about the aspect of shipping the product and then what that looks like in the box that it arrives, inside of the actual beauty
Yep.
packaging itself, what that looks, what that feels like, what that experience is like. And even from the lens of the tracking notifications, when people are expecting their package, like what does that process look like? Are you going to be handling those, those different queries and things like that? And how maybe if you're selling 20 units a day, that's one thing. But when you start thinking about scaling, you really have to think about it from the lens of you have to scale everything. And so she helps these beauty, or I think she did. I don't know if she does anymore. But she was helping these companies think about the logistics process before by saying it's never too early to look at your logistics and fulfillment, and that a lot of 3PLs also will integrate. So basically off of a good relationship with your 3PL, if you were to establish that with them as you're growing and as you're scaling, she said a lot of the 3PLs will integrate their tracking tech and customer service related items to shipping right on the brand's website, which I thought was super interesting, that if you're dealing with like a Sephora or like a Ulta, or maybe some of these other smaller beauty companies that aren't in a big retailer like that, that if you are chatting with them about where's your product and where, because the majority of customer service inquiries are tracking related, where's my product? And
Mhm.
so for that, you're actually communicating with the 3PL and not the company itself, which I did not know and I thought was pretty interesting as well. And I want to play a really short clip because I think it's really fascinating from like the consulting standpoint of how she's consulting these indie beauty retailers to think about your logistics partnership. And I think it's really valuable for the carriers and the brokers out there to think about this as well. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up this clip.
I'm not gonna lie, as a shopper, like half the fun is opening it up in the box and like how it looks and all that stuff. So that's awesome.
I mean, where do you even start to find a fulfillment partner? How do you get in contact with these people? And
yeah. And this is the biggest challenge. And actually, a number of brands put off finding a fulfillment house because it's just like, what do you do? And a number of established brands who are unhappy in the warehouses that they're in put off finding a new supplier because it's just too overwhelming to even start with. So there are a couple of things that I always recommend. So the best way of finding anybody, it doesn't matter, does it, whether you're doing fulfillment or contract manufacturer or anything, is that we are all part of the most amazing community. We're all part of these amazing Facebook groups, your mastermind group, my Facebook group. There are hundreds of entrepreneurs in there who are doing this, and a lot of them have done what you want to do. So put some feelers out, because recommendation is a great place to start. So, put some, really go to your contacts, rinse your groups that you're members of, and find out who people are using. And that's a really, really good place to start. If you're UK based, I have a free service, which is wonderful, where I will consult.
Well, a lot of that, I don't know that exists anymore, so I'll sort of stop that right
Yeah,
there. But
true.
what I thought was interesting about that is that it's essentially word of mouth is how she's referring different beauty suppliers or beauty or indie beauty manufacturers to 3PLs in order to find out the fulfillment and their warehousing services. And so my thought process is like, wow, so you're using not only just word of mouth, but also these different Facebook groups and just different communities that are online. So if you're a freight broker out there, I would be hitting up and Googling all of these different Facebook groups for the different commodities that maybe you specialize in moving that freight, because they really talked about how in that whole show about how the relationship with your 3PL will help you get into larger retailers. And so if you're working with a 3PL, even if you are small, even if you're not in makeup, if you're in somewhere else, if you're thinking about scaling, you need to be thinking about what that end-to-end customer feels whenever they're opening up your package, whenever they're experiencing your product. And then a 3PL will then be able to help you not only get those relationships with different retailers, but be able to help you sell with that relationship to that retailer of, hey, we're using a 3PL partner that is already experienced and shipping this kind of freight. So it's going to be a seamless integration from the retailer's perspective. And so thinking about it from that lens, if I'm a freight broker, I am going to be researching all of the different Facebook groups, all of the different online communities in order to find out what these customers, these shippers are dealing with, and use it to offer insight on the logistics process. Because this woman was a consultant. And so she specializes in just beauty. And so if you think about it even a step further, if she's saying like word of mouth is king, which it always will be, like why not develop a relationship with some of these logistics consultants and they can be the relationship builder for you, so you can kind of have this multi-pronged approach, so you're not hammering out 100 cold calls in a day, or downloading a bunch of quote unquote leads off of Zoom info and mass emailing everyone. Those things don't work. They have a very low success rate. So why not do a little bit more online research, 2 minutes of research, which another, sort of podcaster, I guess kind of still in our space, Matt Dahl, he just recently moved from the brokerage side of things to the shipper side of things. He even made a comment on this earlier today on Twitter about how he's gotten so many different cold calls and cold emails, and it's just clearly, very clearly spray and pray. So I thought that was a good insight into the logistics side of things. And if you're looking for new customers, maybe forming these relationships and building in these different communities might be a really good angle for folks out there. Brokering success demands a battle-ready strategy. TIE TMS equips freight brokers with the ultimate battle station for conquering a tough market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform where rate intelligence and quote history converge on a single screen. It's not just a page, it's a strategic command center designed to help brokers win. TIE equips your team with all of the data they need to negotiate with confidence and allows them to communicate directly with carriers and customers from a simple control base. Revolutionize the way your brokers perform by giving them a competitive advantage with TIE TMS. For more info, go to tai-software.com/battle stations, and we also have a link for you in the show notes to sign up for a demo. Hope y'all enjoyed that segment. Now, next up, let's talk about the dirty business of makeup returns and how you can protect yourself in the future from buying products that have been previously used, which gross.
So I'm a big makeup stan. I love interesting palettes. I like to collect like weird makeup duos and brands, and I spend way too much money on it. Let's just say that. Thank God COVID calmed me down. Working from home calmed me down on it a little. But so there's a YouTube personality that I follow who actually did this series, I want to say about 5 years ago, and it never came to air. And I think he was afraid of getting sued. And the clips we're about to show in a second, you'll hear, because they don't say the name of the company. I'll say it. It's TJ Maxx. And
I know where this is going.
Yeah. So TJ Maxx, if you've ever been into their makeup section, isn't ever the cleanest. And basically what this YouTube video is spending time doing is investigating the returns process of makeup and how different stores do that. And so if we want to pull up the first clip, basically what happens here is they just finished going to TJ Maxx and they bought makeup that they wanted to see what the quality was like, if it felt used before, if it
gross.
Yeah, this is gonna be a gross episode for everyone. And they're kind of going through it in general. So if you want to pull up that first clip, we'll start there.
Okay.
I gotta go.
What's happening? Okay, so here's my plan because I want to be very sanitary and safe. So which palette should we mess with and then return?
So these were the ones that already had something sort of defective. And then these were the ones that were just flat out broken.
Do you think this one?
I mean, that one already has a fingerprint. Okay. So if you made another fingerprint, I feel like it'd be pretty obvious.
I'm going to make it very obviously used to a point where an employee or somebody there would be like, don't put that on the shelf. Okay.
For everyone who's just listening
Maybe
to the
try to get, like, a
episode, he's
finger
wearing
mouth
gloves
divot in it, too.
just in case someone does purchase this as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Okay. Is that crazy enough?
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, that looks like a toddler got to it. Do you want to like take a pin or like?
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that looks crazy. Okay, so you see.
So this next part is important too. You just have to kind of double protect himself.
I'm gonna mark box inside so that tomorrow we can go back and see if they put it on the shelf.
Oh.
So I put a little star.
So he's putting a little star inside the box, of course, to kind of showcase, okay, This is
Yeah,
we
I
got this.
guess break it down for the folks who are just listening of what just happened in that.
Yeah, so if you're just listening, basically they had went to TJ Maxx. They bought a ton of makeup to see the quality of it. Probably half of it seemed used before or was damaged, which a lot of times happens in these like kind of resale TJ Maxx type of stores, Marshalls, stuff like that, right? So their theory though is that people are returning this and that they're putting it right back on the shelf to continue making money off of it. And so they say, let's kind of mess with it. Let's make it obvious that someone used this. Well, let's mark the box. We're going to return it, which they go and return. We don't have that clip. They go and return it. And the next clip is they're going back into the store the next day to see if it's on the shelf. And so Shane in particular, Dawson goes in, and this is him coming out of the store.
Okay.
So what happened?
Oh my god, I'm so nervous. Okay, so I found the same palette, but I don't know if it's the one.
Okay.
Because there's multiple of them. I have like a bunch of overstock of that. So I don't know if this is the one, but I bought it anyways. I'm like nervous. Okay.
I'm dying for this.
What do I do?
This company.
If this is real, if they're doing this still, this is like a problem. Like this isn't even funny anymore. Okay. Okay, so here's the palette.
Okay.
And I drew a star inside. Oh my god. Okay.
You're making me nervous.
Okay. Ready? Okay.
Hold on. Okay.
Ready? I'm just gonna rip it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Didn't stop it there. So he rips it open and the star is there. So basically what happened is in less than 24 hours, they return the palette, which by the way, it's kind of crazy that you can return a used palette to begin with. And previously in the episode, we skipped that part, but like they're even surprised they get a full refund on it.